The Soviet Union's first strategic bomber, it was a B-29. Well, kind of. Let me explain. Through the Lend-Lease Act in World War II, the US gave the Soviet Union basically anything that they couldn't make themselves, except for the B-29. The US did not want to give them that. And Stalin had asked the US for it several times. He really wanted the B-29. And with good reason. It was the most advanced bomber that there was in the world. I've said before that it had more in common with Cold War bombers than it did with any other World War II bomber. So when three B-29s had to make emergency landings in the Soviet Union in World War II, and then one more crashed in the Soviet Union, Stalin had his engineers jump on that opportunity to reverse engineer it. And over the next 2 years, this was like Stalin's pet project almost. Like he oversaw it personally to the point where a lot of the Tupolev engineers were having trouble convincing the government as a whole, Tupolev and Stalin, to let them use Soviet made parts rather than having to build from scratch reproductions of the parts on the B-29. And a lot of cases, well, not a lot, but there were some cases where the parts that they wanted to use and thankfully for them were able to use were actually superior to the parts that the US had on the B-29 itself. And when it was all said and done, the reproduction that they made, the entire copy that they made of the B-29, it was only like 700 pounds more than the OG B-29. They called it the Tu-4. And that's only like a 1% difference in weight from one plane to the other, which is an insane feat. Now, in May of 1947 is when the Tupolev Tu-4 first flew. And later that year, in August, there was a big air show. A lot of American observers showed up to see what the Soviets had been able to accomplish in the last 2 years since the war ended. And at that air show, three B-29s flew over, and the American observers thought, okay, there's the three B-29s that had to make emergency landings. And then a few minutes later, a fourth one flew over, and they realized, oh no, the Soviets have reverse engineered the B 29. They have a strategic bomber now.